Welcome to the deep dive. So, you reached out wanting to figure out how to unlock more personal potential, right?
Yeah.
How to get more out of yourself.
Yep, and that's exactly what we're tackling today.
Great. So, what's our source?
We're looking closely at John C. Maxwell's book, No Limits, Blow the Cappy Off Your Capacity. And the key thing here, Maxwell argues it's not just about innate talent.
Right. Not just what you're born with.
Exactly. He really stresses that capacity is shaped heavily by our choices and, maybe most importantly, our self-awareness.
Okay. So, our mission for this deep dive is to pull out those really actionable bits from the book, those things that can actually shift how you think.
Yeah, we want to help pinpoint those, sometimes invisible caps that might be holding you back.
And crucially, how to maybe start taking them off. We're aiming for those like aha moments.
Right, so you feel informed, ready to use this stuff, but not overwhelmed.
Perfect. So let's dive in, keeping you, the listener, and your potential right at the center.
Okay, so a really foundational idea Maxwell hits on is self-awareness. You kind of have to know you're operating below your potential before you can even start to improve.
That makes sense. You can't fix what you don't see.
Precisely. And he says this applies to everyone, even really successful people. There's often more potential just, well, sitting there untapped.
It's interesting. He mentions his own path to self-awareness wasn't always internal. Like other people often had to point things out to him first.
Yeah, that external feedback can be a real catalyst. It got him asking, what else am I missing here? What more could I do?
And a big shift for him, something he really advocates for, is moving focus away from just fixing weaknesses.
And instead, really zeroing in on your strengths, leveraging what you're already good at.
Instead of always patching holes, basically.
Exactly. Think about that energy. If you pour it into amplifying strengths instead of constantly shoring up weaknesses,
Mm-hmm.
well, that can unlock a lot.
It really makes you think, doesn't it? Where could I shift my focus for maybe some unexpected growth?
So once that awareness starts clicking, the next step is finding those caps. What's actually holding you back?
And he uses that elephant training analogy, right?
Yeah, it's a really sticky one. These huge, powerful animals held by a tiny rope.
Because when they were small, they learned they couldn't break free.
Right, it creates this learned helplessness, a self-imposed limit that sticks, even when they physically could break free easily later on.
Wow. It's a really clear picture of how past stuff can keep us stuck, even when it's not true anymore.
But, and this is important, Maxwell distinguishes between different kinds of caps. Some you can remove, others, well, maybe not.
Like the example of Nick Vujicic.
Exactly. His physical limitations are real, they can't be removed. But the incredible thing is how he refused to let those define his potential. He acknowledged the reality, but didn't let it cap everything else.
So it's about accepting certain realities without letting them become the whole story.
Precisely. Know the boundary, but don't let it define the entire territory.
Then there are the caps others put on us.
No.
Low expectations.
Yeah, like the story of David. His own brothers just kind of dismissed him. You're just a kid, what do you know?
They couldn't see his potential for something big, like facing Goliath.
Nope. Even when David was ready, his oldest brother basically told him to get lost. This isn't for you. It really shows how doubt from others can try to box us in.
I even remember something similar way back. 5th grade, I really wanted to play the trumpet. We rented one and everything.
Oh, yeah. What
The
happened?
music teacher pretty quickly said I didn't have the right lip for it. Just like that.
Wow. A cap placed by someone else.
Totally. And for ages, I just accepted it. Guess I can't play the trumpet.
Those external things can stick.
Mm.
But Maxwell also talks about caps we put on ourselves because of our environment.
Right. His own experience growing up in a smaller town.
Yeah, where the focus was more on being a good worker, a good person, which are great things, but maybe not so much on, like, big leadership impact.
And he felt that limiting him.
He did. He felt this pull towards leadership, towards making a bigger difference. So he realized his environment wasn't really feeding that.
So what did he do?
He made a really conscious choice in his early 30s, I think, to move, to find an environment that would challenge and support that leadership drive. It was a deliberate act to remove that environmental cap.
And how did he figure out how to do that, removing those self-imposed limits?
It involved two key things, really useful for anyone listening. First, exposure. He started reading about these huge, successful churches, seeing a different scale was possible.
Okay, so seeing what could be done.
Exactly. And second, seeking out examples. He actually went and interviewed pastors of those churches. They affirmed his potential, showed him real paths.
So it moved from just an idea, maybe I could do more, to a real belief, okay, how can I do more?
Precisely. It shifts from intellectual to visceral.
Mm.
Makes you wonder, are there environments or beliefs in our lives that are subtly limiting us? Could some new exposure or examples challenge that?
That naturally leads into the power of belief, right? Believing in yourself, but also how others believing in you makes a difference.
Absolutely. Maxwell even says he wants to be a cap remover for people reading his stuff. That comes from a real core belief in human potential.
And he talks about how people believing in him early on was huge.
Definitely. Getting opportunities, having people see something in him, that external validation really helped build his own self-confidence. It's like a positive feedback loop.
A real upward spiral.
It is. But Maxwell is also really clear. While others' belief helps, ultimately, self-belief is the foundation. It's essential.
You can push through doubt from others, maybe?
But it's almost impossible if the deepest doubt is coming from inside you. You've got to cultivate that self-belief, often by, well, doing things and proving it to yourself.
Okay, so when we talk capacity, it's not just one thing, is it?
No, not at all. Maxwell points out we have lots of different capacities that are shaped by, our talents and our choices.
It's a mix of nature and nurture, basically.
Pretty much. He touches on different types, and some are maybe more talent-based, though choice is always in the mix somewhere. Just good to remember we're complex, lots of different potentials inside.
All right, let's shift gears a bit. Managing resources like time and energy, that marble jar story is quite something.
Oh yeah, that one sticks with you. He's in his mid-60s, starting two big new things.
And he has his CEO fill a jar with marbles.
Yep. Each marble representing 1 week until his 70th birthday. Every single week, they took one out.
Wow. Talk about a visual reminder of finite time.
It's incredibly potent, maybe even a bit confronting,
Huh.
but his reason was pure intentionality. Succession planning, avoiding overstaying his welcome, maximizing his impact in that specific window.
It really hammers home how precious time is and the need to be deliberate, what grabs you about it.
Just how concrete it makes it. Time is usually so abstract, right? This makes it touchable almost. Makes you think about your own marble jar for sure.
Definitely. And then for energy, he brings in the 3 Rs.
Right. Requirement, return, and reward. His observation is that things giving you a sense of reward almost always energize you. Makes sense. Same often goes for things with high return, big results. The tricky ones are often the requirements, the stuff you just have to do.
Unless you can connect them somehow.
Exactly. If you can find the return or reward in the requirement, great. And when all three line up, that's where you likely feel consistently energized.
It connects to that Tom Rath question, doesn't it? What fully charges me?
Perfectly. For Maxwell, it was leading, creating, communicating his gift zone.
So the prompt for the listener is, what activities genuinely fill your tank instead of draining it? Knowing that seems crucial for capacity.
Absolutely vital. Okay, another capacity. Emotional strength. Maxwell stresses taking action in negative situations, not just, stewing.
Hoping, wishing, blaming, those don't actually change anything.
Right, they're passive. They keep you stuck. And a big sign of emotional resilience, not spending ages feeling sorry for yourself.
He has that joke, right? About the guy saying the whole world's against him.
Yeah. And his friend says, they don't even know you yet. It's funny, but it highlights how easily we can blow things out of proportion. What do you take from that?
It's perspective, right? Our internal story can get way more dramatic than reality.
Totally. And Maxwell also hammers home learning from mistakes, his principle. It's not over until you've learned from it.
So reflection turns experience into insight.
Exactly. That insight fuels growth, makes you stronger next time. And it's also about learning to emotionally reset. Don't carry yesterday's baggage into today.
Start fresh each day, emotionally speaking.
That's the goal. Building that strength lets you face each day unburdened.
Okay, how about thinking capacity? How do we increase that?
Step one, according to Maxwell, is simply valuing your thoughts, recognizing they have potential worth rather than just letting them drift by.
So not dismissing your own ideas.
Right. Become an idea digger. Ask questions, explore, try to unearth and develop new concepts. For him, a good day involves adding value and finding a worthwhile new idea.
And once you have an idea, how do you know if it's any good?
He suggests asking some tough questions. Does it still genuinely excite me? Will it connect with others? How, where, when could I actually use it? Who could it help?
If the answers aren't strong, maybe let it go.
Probably wise, yeah?
Yeah.
Don't waste energy on weak ideas.
He also talks about verbalizing thoughts, giving them voice.
Even though he tends to process internally first.
Yeah, he learned, especially early in marriage and leadership, how valuable it is to talk things through, get that dialogue
And
going.
it doesn't stop there. You have to practice the thought.
Right. Take it for a walk, as he says. Test it out. Get feedback. Like how he tested phrases like failing forward or everything worthwhile is uphill in his talks.
See how they land in the real world?
Exactly. It's an iterative process.
Mm-hmm.
Then finally, you launch the thought. Turn it into action. Know what you want people to know, feel, and do.
Like that big Paraguay initiative, training thousands in intentional living principles.
Perfect example. Taking an idea from concept to large-scale impact.
Okay, let's talk relationships. People capacity, a huge one. Maxwell thinks being a good friend is seriously underrated. He even brings in Aristotle.
About perfect friends just enjoying being together.
Yeah, the core joy is just the connection itself. And a huge part of that is consistency.
Relationships that are up and down all the time are draining.
Totally. Consistency builds trust, deepens the connection. It takes ongoing effort.
He also pushes believing the best in people, extending trust.
He does. He figures people are more likely to live up to potential if someone genuinely believes in them, even if you might get burned sometimes.
And crucially, don't let their behavior control your attitude. How do you read that?
It's about owning your internal state, isn't it? Not giving away your emotional remote control.
Emotional self-reliance. I like that.
Exactly. He has this concept of mentally putting a 10 on everyone's head. Assume their best potential. He thinks people often rise to meet those expectations.
Proactively shaping your perception.
Right. And also intentionally create memorable moments for others. Show you value them, you're paying attention. That deepens things.
And he mentions Jim Collins' Who Luck.
Yeah, the idea that who you connect with profoundly shapes your life and success. Maxwell's own story is full of examples of key relationships making a difference.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
Okay, what about boosting creativity?
Maxwell reframes it. Instead of asking, is there an answer? Ask, what is the answer? It implies creativity takes time, patience, experimentation.
It's not just about finding something already there.
No, it's about generating something new. He realized early on, as a young theologian, that creativity is often about connecting things.
Reading widely, filing ideas, then looking for links.
Exactly. That process opened up whole new ways of thinking for him. Practicing imagination, playing with half-baked ideas is key too.
We kind of let those muscles atrophy if we don't use them.
Totally. And leaders need to model that. Create space for creative exploration. Give permission to try things.
All right, production capacity, getting stuff done.
Starts with that core truth. Everything worthwhile is uphill. The problem, uphill dreams, but maybe downhill habits.
That misalignment caps your output.
Big time. And Paul, Maxwell's colleague, had a great insight. Just start working before you know the whole plan.
Don't wait for perfect clarity.
Right. Do what you can do now. He tells that funny story about trying to shovel tons of snow with a tiny garden spade.
Not the right tool, but he started anyway.
Exactly. Work with what you've got. And sometimes boosting production means stopping doing things you're not great at.
Like Paul deciding he wasn't cut out to be a keynote speaker?
Yeah. He realized his strength was being an amazing second in command. Focusing there made the whole team way more productive than if he kept trying to force the speaker role. Know your lane.
Good advice. Okay, leadership capacity. Relevant for everyone, really.
Absolutely. Maxwell uses Liz Wiseman's concept of being a multiplier, someone who makes everyone around them better, more capable.
Not just being a star yourself.
Right. And he says a lot of his leadership learning came from just listening and asking good questions. Understand people first.
And connect with them before asking for change.
Crucial. Change is hard. You need that foundation of trust and relationship first.
What about knowing when to push versus being patient?
His advice.
Yeah.
Push on things people can control, attitude, responsibility, work ethic. Be patient with things they can't easily change background, maybe current skill level, experience.
Got it. And helping them believe in themselves.
Essential. And be super clear about growth expectations. Transparency is key too.
Oh.
Share info, honestly, even the tough stuff, while keeping the vision clear.
And his definition of leadership maturity.
Unselfishness. Building ladders for others, not just climbing your own. True success is empowering others.
Okay, abundance versus scarcity mindset. That's a big one.
Huge. Maxwell talks about two big other side of yes moments in his career, leaving safe, successful roles for bigger, scarier leadership development ventures.
Driven by abundance thinking.
Totally. Scarcity is fear-based, limited, crowded. Abundance is exciting, belief-driven, generous.
And the core difference is belief.
Belief in yourself and belief in the potential of others. He loves that Henry Ford quote about needing people with the infinite capacity to not know what can't be done.
Seeing possibilities, not just limits. Future-focused.
Exactly. And importantly, you can choose an abundance mindset, even if you grew up with scarcity. He mentions Kevin Myers doing just that.
So it's a learnable skill. What about discipline?
Discipline capacity. Another choice. Maxwell quotes someone saying too many people treat life like a waiting room.
But worthwhile stuff doesn't just happen.
Nope. Requires self-discipline, and that's a choice you make and remake daily.
So how do you build it?
Clear, specific, written goals are step one. Gives you a target. Then focus on doing the right thing just for today. Don't get overwhelmed by the whole mountain.
One day at a time.
Right. And minimize distractions. Ask yourself, what am I crowding out today if I do this less important thing? Be super aware of time.
Treat it like the valuable resource it is.
And finish what you start. Discipline means follow through even when it gets tough. Focus and finish.
Okay, next up, intentionality.
Yeah, huge difference between good intentions and deliberate action. He uses that 5 frogs riddle.
4 decide to jump off the log. How many are left?
Still 5. Deciding isn't doing. Intentionality is about the doing.
And the other key is consistency.
Yep. Consistent actions compound over time, good or bad. Intentionality plus consistency equals growth.
And it's an act of will, right? A daily choice.
Absolutely. Actively shaping your life, not just reacting.
What about moving from success to significance?
Significance, for Maxwell, is all about adding value to other people. It's an uphill trait because, well, selfishness can be easier.
Our default setting sometimes.
Maybe. So significance requires choosing to value people at their best, not focusing on flaws, and making it a daily habit. Think of ways to add value, then do things that add value.
Actively contributing to others' well-being.
That's the heart of it. Okay, attitude capacity.
This one feels really important too.
It is. Attitude is surprisingly pliable, resilient. You can change it. Self-talk is a huge tool here.
How you talk to yourself shapes your outlook.
Massively. And how you handle failure. That's maybe the biggest separator between successful and unsuccessful people.
So it requires humility, teachability, resilience.
All 3. Look past the failure to the lesson. Keep a positive outlook. Focus on learning and bouncing back. Life's a long game. Needs perspective and positivity.
What about risk capacity?
Needed to grow. T.S. Eliot said, only those who will risk going too far can possibly find out how far one can go.
You have to push boundaries.
You do. Maxwell himself took big risks later in life. Stepping out of the comfort zone is often where the real growth happens.
Now, he also touches on spiritual capacity.
He does, based on his own faith. Talks about unconditional love, a gentle higher power working with us, not forcing us.
Respecting choice.
Right. He uses the idea of a God room space for something bigger to work through us, often using ordinary people for extraordinary things. It's presented as an invitation, a way to potentially expand capacity further.
Okay, finally, creating a growth environment.
Super important. Growth happens faster in the right soil, basically.
And he lists characteristics of that environment.
Yeah, 10 of them. Things like, others are ahead of you, you're stretched. Failure's okay if you learn, you're coached. Others are growing too, you're challenged. Excellence is expected, the leader models growth.
It sounds like being deliberately put in a place designed for growth.
Exactly. Jim Rohn's quote fits perfectly. You don't achieve goals, you grow into them. You need to be around other growers.
And Maxwell have questions he asks before investing in someone's growth.
3 key ones. Do they want to grow? Are they teachable? Can I actually make a difference?
Makes sense. You can't force growth on someone.
Nope. And Mark Cole, his CEO, talks about principles for creating that environment.
Yeah.
Being adaptable, aligned, solving problems, believing the mission. Their mission of adding value is the environment.
Exceeding expectations, respecting relationships, always growing.
All part of building that fertile ground for capacity expansion.
Okay, so wrapping this deep dive up, the main takeaway.
It's that your capacity isn't fixed. It's really a result of choices, awareness, intentional action across all these different areas.
We've kind of laid out a framework here based on Maxwell for understanding those potential caps.
And giving you some practical ideas for how to start removing them or working around them.
So the final thought for you, the listener, to chew on this week.
Yeah, think about this. Can you identify just one specific cap in your life that you could consciously start working on, maybe just a tiny bit, this week?
Or pick one concept we talked about, like the 3 Rs, or positive self-talk, or consistency.
And find one small, doable way to apply it immediately,
Mm.
today or tomorrow. That first intentional step can really be the start of something much bigger.
And of course, you could always dive deeper into Maxwell's book itself for more detail.
Absolutely. Well, thanks for joining us on this deep dive.
Yeah, thanks for listening.